Hey everybody, it's Overkill here with another Attila video. No, we're not doing a campaign. No, we're not doing online battles. Today we're doing a mod spotlight. And this mod is the expanded roster mod. That's not quite exactly the title, but I'm sorry. By Serious PT over on the workshop. So this mod adds 55 new units to Age of Charlemagne. And this mod is always being updated. The last update was the 30th of December, and that added 8 new units to the roster. So now it's up to 55. What's cool about this mod is it adds units to other mods as well. So this is totally compatible with AOC Theme of Sicily, the AOC Factions Pack, the AOC Slavic Factions Plus Theme of Sicily, Age of Britannia, and Age of Italia. It's compatible with all of those, and it adds units to the Slavs, Sicilians, and British factions. So that's pretty cool. Without further ado, let's get in and look at some of the units. So starting with the Emirate of Cordoba, you have Umayyad nobles. You can see that they're pretty much your late game infantry, probably one of the last units you can get. Excellent armor piercing damage, excellent missile block chance, excellent armor. They are a mace unit, as you can see from the unit cards, and that's the thing. What this adds is either completely brand new units, such as the Umayyad nobles, or it ports units from existing armies into other ones, and we'll get into that in a second. But you can see, for example, the Umayyad nobles, the Saracen Warriors, these are all completely new unit cards. He made these. And you can see they look like they belong in the game themselves. It's awesome. But anyway, you can just look at their stats now. They have Hide in the Forest, Encourage, Disciplined, Expert Charge Defense, Push, and Shield Wall. So these guys are absolute beasts. Discipline means the general dying doesn't matter. Encourage means they inspire other units around them. It's excellent. A very good unit to be added to the to these guys, considering the only unit before that could do that was the Umayyad Guardsmen. So now there's two options for your very heavy, or well, these are very heavy, but whatever. Now there's more options for your late game infantry, basically. Next added is completely at the other end of the spectrum, the Berber infantry. They're a tier 1 light melee infantry, very poor armor piercing damage, very poor armor. These are basically just your filler units. You throw them in front of your more expensive units so that they can soak up missiles and stuff and all that good stuff. We then get the Andalusian Crossbowmen, adding crossbows to the Cordobans, of course. They're tier 2 light crossbows, just what you would expect from a crossbow unit. All the crossbows are pretty similar in Age of Charlemagne. You can see they have barrage, which is nice. We then have Saracen Warriors, and I'm sorry I'm kind of going through this really quickly. There's like 12 factions that have units we have to go through. So Saracen Warriors are your tier 2 heavy melee infantry. They have excellent armor piercing damage, excellent spotting, but poor armor. You can see that they're not really wearing any armor. They get a 20 armor apparently, but in game they really don't have that much. And then finally, rounding off the Cordobans, we have Andalusian Knights. They're your elite, very heavy melee cavalry. Excellent attack against cavalry, excellent missile block chance, excellent armor. And you can see that they are encouraging and disciplined as well. They have trample and diamond. So these guys are just absolutely devastating. Even in Age of Charlemagne, where cavalry aren't amazing, you can see that the next one up, the stats are, yeah, they're pretty different. Like, their morale is a lot lower. They're a bit faster, of course, because, well, they're the same armored. Interesting. But they don't have quite so many abilities and stuff. So we then move on to the next faction in the list is the Danes. And the Danes actually, surprisingly, get one of the biggest additions to the roster. So first off, we start with the Line Breakers. These are tier 1 light axe infantry. They actually have a smaller unit than normal, but you can see that their melee attack is just ridiculous. It's even higher than what was considered some of the best units for the Danes. So these guys are good for flanking, of course, and well, just charging right into the enemy and breaking them up, and then getting your other units right behind them. We now have an imported unit, this being the Raider Cavalry. This was a unit in the game before, but the Danes did not have access to them. It really does help the Danes, where they don't have any cavalry. Having some mobile javelins is very nice. And with this unit's in the game, you can see it's exactly the same as any other faction that has them. Another added unit is the Vikings. They're a tier 2 heavy melee infantry. These are going to become, in the mid game, these become like your, pretty much your mid game. I'm talking about campaigns here now, but if you use these in multiplayer, you know, these would be like your main body troops pretty much. Like you'd have more of these than really anything else. Excellent armor, excellent spotting, poor armor piercing damage. They are a sword unit, so they're more for tanking and just doing substantial damage, or not substantial, you know, just doing damage over time, as opposed to the axe units that are all about doing damage but not much defense. Another unit in melee infantry is the Shield Maidens. You can see that compared to the Vikings, they have like the same damage and such. It's just they literally are less armored, less charge bonus, all that stuff. But yeah, like these could just be a supporting unit. They're a bit faster, as you can see. Actually, no, they're the same. It just seems like they're a cheaper version of them, pretty much. Then we have Danish Spearmasters. So this gives you an elite spear infantry for the Danes, which you did not have before. And it's literally pretty much the same as other elite spear infantry. They have expert charge defense, counter cavalry, spear wall, encourage, discipline, hide in forest. It's awesome, basically. They have very good melee defense. Kind of low on the attack and damage, of course, because they're a spear unit, but what can you do? We then get the elite Axe Infantry, the heroes from Valhalla. Excellent armor piercing damage, excellent armor, excellent morale. I'm gonna say it now. I'm not too keen on the stats and stuff in Attila, so I can't really say like, oh, this is amazing, this is good. But you can see the stats. You can make the assumption yourself. They have a unit of 60, so that's a bit weird, or not weird, but a bit risky, because if these guys get shot at, they're just gonna die. But yeah. Then we have Frigg Spears. This is a bow and spear unit. Now, I'm actually using these in my Danes campaign a lot, and they're awesome. Having a spear unit with bows is very useful, and they actually have a lot of ammunition and stuff too. And they do 44 damage, so it's pretty good. Yeah, having these supporting your spearmen is a really good idea. And then finishing off the Danes, we have Odin's Chosen, which are the elite sword infantry. They're very heavy, and you can see they have all these abilities: Inspire Group, Shield Screen, Shield Wall, Discipline, Hide, Scare Everyone, Immune to Fear. They're crazy. So then we move on to the next kingdom, which is Asturias. Now these ones aren't so unique. The first two units, the Levy Archers and the Archers, are both imported units from other factions, because of course Asturias doesn't have archers in the normal game. Then the next unit, Horsemen, is brought over from Murcia. They also didn't have this unit. They had Iberians and Royal Cavalry. But then we actually get into the unique units. So we have Galician Infantry. You can see that these are your cheap swords, basically. Just a step up from swordsmen. They have javelins, which is good. But you can see that their health is low, armor piercing damage. They're just your cheap sword infantry, basically. But then we get an upgrade to the Galician Heavy Infantry, and you can see that they're tier 2 heavy. And all of a sudden, the stats start looking a lot better. Excellent armor, excellent spotting, has missile weapons. You can see it's just a direct upgrade, pretty much. We then get the elite melee infantry, the Starion Knights. They're very heavy melee infantry. Excellent missile block chance, excellent armor piercing damage, excellent armor. You can see that they get discipline and courage, expert charge defense, push, and shield wall. Yeah, they actually have extra health as well compared to the normal 100. And then we move on to the Asturian Noble Spears, which are the elite spear unit, because they don't get any elite spears. The highest you get is ambushers, and they're light. But these guys are heavy, and you can see that they get all the awesome benefits of being an elite unit as well. Very cool. So then we go to Charlemagne, which is potentially the least fancy upgrade, pretty much. We get Paladin Swordsman at the melee infantry. They're very heavy melee infantry. Excellent missile block chance, excellent armor piercing damage, excellent armor, and of course all of the special abilities that come with elite units. But then the other units are just these 3 units of crossbows, 2 of which being in the game already, and then this one was created, the Frankish crossbows. But essentially they all do the same thing. It's just that these guys are disciplined and encouraged and stuff, and then these 2 are armored and unarmored counterparts, pretty much. So you know what crossbows do in Attila. So then we move on to Murcia, which I will find eventually. There we go. And Murcia actually gets the second largest update to their roster. starting with some just imported units. Again, the crossbows and armored crossbows, they're imported units. They were already in the game. Swordsmen, which the Mercians didn't have access to, or they're an imported unit as well. English King's Guards, I guess that would be them. Yeah, English King's Guards. You can see that they are an elite, very heavy melee infantry. They come with discipline, encourage, brace, all that good stuff. You can see them there. English Longbowmen. Now this is a unique bow unit. Excellent range, very poor missile block chance, very poor armor. Of course, they're unarmored, but look at the difference. They do 11 more damage than the typical bow unit, and their stats are just like hundreds times better. And they also have access to precision shot, which these two units do not have access to, which is nice. And of course, longbows. You can't be English without longbows. Come on. So then we move on to the English Elite Spearmen. So those are up here. You can see you can see a pattern here. It's adding elite units where there weren't really any. Sure, like Royal Thanes or Thanes, whatever, were the elites for Murcia, but I mean, like, these are just direct upgrades to them pretty much. But anyway, the English Elite Spearmen, again, their stats: excellent attack against cavalry, excellent missile block chance, excellent armor, and they have spear wall, discipline, and courage, hide forest. We then get English long axes, which, I mean, it makes sense. Maybe not for the specific time period, but the English did start using Dane axes after the invasion of the Danes. So it's nice that there is a unit for that if you want to pretend you're in a later time period, I suppose. But basically, it's just a more armored big axes from the Danes. You can see lots of damage, lots of charge bonus and such. Excellent armor piercing damage. These guys are just to charge in and kill a bunch of stuff and then probably die. And then finishing it off, we have the Royal Knights, which I believe are an imported unit from Asturias, if I am correct. Yep, they are. They're an imported unit from Asturias. But we'll still take a look at them. You can see, like, it's supposed to be horsemen, royal horsemen, but then there's the Royal Knights, and they're just so much better than the royal horsemen. But yeah, so that was Murcia. We're now moving on to the Avars, which have another big addition. A lot of units in the recent update were given to the Avars. Actually, I think it was only one. Never mind. Don't mind me. So starting with the Avars, we have the steppe tribes people. They're there. This adds in a tier 1 light melee infantry. You can see their stats are horrible. They have no positive things about them. They're literally just there to be flanking units, because as the Avars, you start off with only spears, basically, until you get to the Bosphorian infantry. I'm pretty sure. No, Bosphorian infantry were added in. So actually, they don't really have swords, because pretty much all of these units except for Avar nobles are added in. So anyway, we'll just get to that. The next unit is Bosphorian infantry. You can see that they're tier 2, excellent armor, has missile weapons, good missile block chance, good stats. They're just an all-around good unit, especially helpful for the Avars, as they do not have great holding infantry. Of course, their focus is on cavalry. After that, we have the Cognate Warriors, which are this unit here. And you can see that they're pretty much just a direct upgrade to them. Their stats are higher in almost every way. It's basically what it is. They're just an upgrade for them. So they'd probably be at the same building, just a tier 2 and a tier 3 building maybe. They might be available at the same time. I don't know. They're both tier 2. So we then get Var Warriors, which are a Falks unit, which is interesting. The Avars are in an area where Falks, like, weapons were used historically, so I guess maybe this has some historical background to it, but who knows. They weren't in the game before, so maybe not. But either way, they're just a light melee infantry. They just charge in and kill a bunch of stuff and allow your men to run into the gap that you made, pretty much. We then get Cognate Spearmen. These are them. You can see it just adds a heavy spearman. Because the best spears that Avars had access to were the tribesmen, which were a bow and spear unit. But you can see now that they have 2 units of elite spears. And again, it has, like, this is where we start getting into discipline and expert charge defense and stuff. Just an all-around good unit. But then we move on to the Kisil Guards, which are very heavy, and they have all the great bonuses of being an elite unit, you can see. And then we have Cognate Cavalry, which were added in. Oh, there we go, a melee cavalry. Because before, all we had was the shot cav and the bow cav. But now we have a nice melee cavalry to actually take on the enemy cavalry as well, or infantry. And you can see that they're probably just based on horsemen or something. Let's actually take a look. Maybe not horsemen. Horsemen were cheaper. Let's take a look at their stats. Okay, never mind. These guys are much better than horsemen. You can see the difference between their... Oh, that's because horsemen are medium and these are heavy. Yeah, of course. But yeah, you can see it adds a nice solid melee infantry to the Avars. So we'll then move on to... Who is the next in this list? I have Westphalia, who, again, don't really get that fancy of an upgrade. But they get access to some new units. So they get access to the... Oh, where are they? The Pagan Band. There we go. The Pagan Warband are an Axe unit. Alright, so you can see that this is just a step up from Axe Warriors and Axe Band, basically. You can see the difference in stats. They have a lot more armor. A little bit less health, but... Oh well. Their melee attack actually goes down as well, which is quite strange. It just seems like they're more heavily armored. They're more for staying and fighting rather than doing lots of damage. We then get Elite Dugoth Spearmen, which are, of course, an elite spear unit for Westphalia. They're only tier 2, which is interesting. They're heavy spears, and this is where you get encourage and discipline in your Westphalian armies from these guys. And you can see their stats here. We then get Geisthuas, or Geisthas. Oh, the list name is a bit different than this one. Very heavy melee infantry. This is your elite melee infantry for Westphalia, of course. The one before is sword veterans, and you can see the difference between the two. Again, shield, Warcry group. Ooh, wow. Discipline, scare everyone, immune to fear, all that great stuff for these elite units. Finishing it off, you have the Saxon Shock Warriors, which are a two-handed axe unit that were completely created for these guys. And you can see tier 2 heavy axe infantry. They're just going to charge in, just kill everybody. They are immune to fear. They scare everyone. These guys are just crazy. So either you can flank people and make them break like instantly, or you can charge them right into the front lines and then fill up the gap that you made with your other warriors. So then we move on to the Lombards, and they don't get a very fancy upgrade either. They now have access to crossbows and armored crossbows, which we've talked about before. They get veterans, which are their elite spear infantry. So these are actually a created unit, not completed. Very heavy spear infantry. You can see the typical discipline and courage. You can see that most of the armies got these new units. Melee attack and such is pretty cool. We then get veteran swordsmen, which are veterans only with swords, and much of the same thing. Raised banner, discipline, all that good stuff. And then we get Italian swordsmen, who are the next sword infantry. So these are both these units are tier. Oh no, these are tier 2. I was looking at those guys. So these are tier 2. So basically, these are your swords that you're going to be using before you get to veteran swordsmen, pretty much. And you can see that they actually get more stats than the veterans. That's interesting. Or not more stats, but more abilities. That's quite an interesting decision, I guess. But that is all 8 of the base game, or base DLC, whatever, factions. So now we're going to be moving in to the mod factions. So we got to look at the theme of Sicily. Where are they? Am I missing them? Oh, they're not showing up because I have the Age of Britannia installed. Oh, crap. Well, okay. Well, I'll just say, it doesn't add that many anyway. It adds the Elite Scudetoi and Scudetoi Guardsmen. So that's swords and spears, basically. And then the Slavic factions, which we also can't look at because of the Britain mod, sorry. Slavic Guardsmen and Slavic Nobles, that's again spear and swords. But then we go into the Welsh factions. You have access to Welsh Spearmen, who are your new elite, and Welsh Swordsmen. So it adds 2 elite units to the armies, basically. And then for the Irish factions, you get Fianna Spearmen instead of just Fianna Warriors. So there you go. So that is Serious PT's unit expansion mod. I wanted to do this video more in a professional kind of standpoint, like Darren Total War's old mod videos where I show the units and then their stats like fade in on the screen. But I suck at editing stuff like that, and it was taking way too long of a time. And I told this guy I was going to do a video on his mod, and it's been like a week since I told him that, so I felt really bad. So I wanted to get this out here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you guys download the mod. A link to it will be down in the description because it is a great mod. It adds so much diversity to Age of Charlemagne, where the rosters can get a little bit boring. But yeah, hopefully you guys find some enjoyment through most of these units. 55 new units is pretty cool. Of course, like I said, some of them aren't new, but they are imported over, which is fine by me. It adds to the game. So anyway, guys, hopefully you enjoyed, and this has been Overkill as always, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.